One of the best and worst days of any cruise will be embarkation day, but there are a few things you can do to help smooth out the rough edges. Ahoy travelers, it's Amy here to help you make your travel experience a success and help make your embarkation less stressful with tips to things like getting a good boarding time and finding parking. Stick around to the end where we discuss the benefits of early boarding. I have long said that embarkation day is both the best and worst day of your cruise, which may sound crazy, but I'm sure there are many cruisers out there that know exactly what I'm talking about. Of course, there's so much excitement surrounding finally getting on board their ship for your next cruise, especially if you've had to wait a long time for that cruise. But there is a gauntlet you have to run through before you can relax on the Lido with a drink in your hand. Luckily, there are a few things you can do to take some of the stress out of embarkation day. While there are just some trials and tribulations you cannot avoid on embarkation day, there are some tips that will help you get through them, and being prepared is number one on that list. And channel regulars will know that I am all about researching and being prepared. It really helps with my stress levels. Now, if you are driving to your embarkation port in your own vehicle, your first step is to know where you're going to park and how to get there. This is where those who fly in and take a shuttle or Uber to the terminal may have a slight advantage. They don't have to worry about figuring all this out. Somebody's going to do it for them. Many times, knowing where to park also means pre-booking your parking at a specific lot to ensure you have a place close by the terminal to leave your vehicle for a week or more that's safe and secure. Some of these places book up early, just really depends on the terminal. So there are a lot of forums out there where parking lots are discussed. Places like Cruise Critic and Facebook are known for having discussions on various port parking locations that are available depending on your port of departure. So do your research beforehand so you can find parking that best suits your needs and get that booked ahead of time if it's necessary. While you're at it, I would go ahead and check and see if other cruisers have tips on when to show up at the terminal and the best route to take. Now for me, getting to and parking at the terminal on the day of your cruise is the most stressful part if I've never been to this port before. Another option is to book a hotel that has park and cruise options. In that instance, you're going to pay extra to leave your vehicle at the hotel while you're on your cruise, and the hotel will either provide a shuttle or you get an Uber to the cruise terminal. Sometimes this can save you money and some headaches, but you're also going to be at the whim of others when it comes to getting to and from the port. I also like to think about what kind of crime there is in the city, how safe the parking is there at the hotel, how open it is, things like that. So you need to take all of that into consideration when deciding if you're willing to leave your vehicle parked in this hotel parking. Now, a tip for those who do choose this option is to go ahead, drop your luggage off at the terminal earlier in the morning so you don't have to worry about dealing with all your luggage if you're taking a shuttle. You're going to want to do that early enough that traffic hasn't picked up yet, but not so early that the porters aren't there to take your luggage from you. Remember, they're going to be out there working to some degree because they're also offloading the ship and all the passengers that have already come in from that morning. So they will be around, but don't show up at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's not going to do anybody any good. Now, you can also do this same thing if you're parking nearby so that you don't have to go drop your luggage off during the hectic hour right before the first boarding begins on your cruise. You can go ahead and drop your luggage off earlier in the morning and then go back to your hotel, go get breakfast, whatever, and then come back and you can just park. Because the lineup of vehicles on embarkation day that it's trying to get into the terminal gets super crazy, especially in that first hour leading up to those very first boarding times. I'm telling you, this is the most stressful part of it for me. I have almost been in tears before because we didn't know where we were going. Nobody was telling us anything. The people at the terminal were not helpful. This is why I cannot stress enough. If you're like me, you need to know what's going to be expected of you. Do as much research as possible. Dropping off your luggage should be quick and easy. Once you get to where the porters are, once you figure that out, you're going to want to pull over if you can and quickly hand over your luggage. Oftentimes when you see this, it won't look like there's a parking spot or there's not a lot of a parking space. You're just trying to get out of the main flow of traffic. And then you need to have everything ready. This means that you should have all your luggage tags already affixed to your luggage, cash in your hand, or at least in your pocket for a tip for the porters. I like to think of this like a NASCAR pit stop. It's all about getting in and out as fast as you can so you can get back in line to go park. And also so you don't make everybody mad around you because you're holding everything up. The porters are also trying to work as fast as possible. You should see these people. They really are like a NASCAR pit crew. So you don't want to slow them down. The porters are going to be able to help you get tags on your luggage if you forgot yours. But you should not be planning for that. That's not something you should just plan for. If for some reason you figure out you left those at home, most hotels will have a computer and printer available and will allow you to then print out your tags and any embarkation materials you need if for some reason they got left at home. Don't leave that to the last minute. Now, in order to get on board the ship as soon as possible, you're going to want to get as early of a boarding time as you can. So unless you have a high status or book a suite, that usually means that you need to do a little bit of preparation pre-cruise. For every cruise, there's going to be a date that you can go and check in online. And during that process, you will choose a boarding time. This date will often be earlier for those with a higher status, which helps them to get earlier boarding times. So what I do is I set an alarm, I log into the cruise website a few minutes prior to the time when it's supposed to go live, and I refresh the page until that moment where I'm able to actually check in and it all goes live. If possible, you're going to want to skip putting in all the information they ask for and go directly to where you can choose your boarding time. Once you choose the earliest time slot available, then you can go back and fill in the rest of the information required to fully check in. So this is going to be where you're going to fill in information like your passport number, credit card information, stuff like that. I recommend showing up to the terminal prior to your boarding time. Now, I probably shouldn't tell people this, and terminals probably don't like this, but it does behoove you to show up a little bit earlier. Not a lot. 30 minutes is about right. And by showing up, I mean walking into the terminal, which means you've already parked, your luggage is already dropped off, all that's done. You're walking into the terminal area about 20 to 30 minutes early. And the reason for this is that oftentimes you can get in prior to your actual boarding time since there's going to be a line to go through security once you make it into the doors. And as long as that line isn't completely full, they're going to go ahead and probably allow people to join the line. Of course, you can avoid almost all of the lines if you're willing to wait and arrive an hour before final boarding, but that's just not me. I want to get on that ship as soon as possible. Now, if you've made it this far, you should consider subscribing to the channel. Did you know that hitting that subscribe button doesn't cost you a thing? It really helps our channel out though, and it lets YouTube know that you like our content. Hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when new videos drop so you don't miss any future posts. Now, be sure to have your passport and boarding documents out and ready the entire time you're checking in at the terminal. The whole time you're in the line, they are going to be telling you over and over again to do this. But you'll still see some people who don't do this, and then they tie up the lines later. Now, if you're a U.S. citizen sailing a closed-loop cruise out of the U.S., you won't need a passport, and you can use a birth certificate instead. But I highly recommend not doing that. There are any number of things that could go wrong and leave you where you need a passport to get back home from a foreign port. Better to go ahead, get that passport prior to your cruise. Plus, it does make both embarkation and debarkation quicker if you have a passport versus a birth certificate. Now, I have been on cruises where we were able to just board the ship directly after we went through check-in, and others where we're put in a holding room while we wait for the previous passengers to all get off the ship so they can let the next round of cruisers, us, on board. Now, the earlier you check in, the more likely you will have to wait until boarding begins. On our most recent cruise, we had a great boarding time. We actually had to wait, and I could overhear people talking about, oh, we still have 10 people on board. We're trying to get them off the ship. So that's what we were waiting on to start boarding. And another tip I have for you is if you are going to have to wait in the room, there'll be lots of chairs, lots of places to sit. My preference is to sit as close to the entrance as possible. So there will be people in a place where they're waiting to check your boarding passes to see if you are in the right boarding group. I sit as close to those people as possible, and that way when my boarding pass number is called or my boarding group is called, I can just go get right in line. You don't have to wait. We've talked a lot about getting on the ship as quick as possible, but what are the benefits of getting on the ship early? Well, the crowds and craziness do not end after you get on board the ship, not for embarkation day. In fact, they only get worse. On embarkation day, you have to think about it. You have thousands of cruisers that are all funneled into just a portion of the ship. Since no one's going to be able to access their rooms yet, they're not hanging out in their rooms. Even if they can, they drop their stuff off and they leave. And many venues aren't even open. You have all these people funneled into just a few areas of the ship. Getting on the ship early means that there isn't a lot of crowding yet, so you're able to easily navigate the ship. You can even find an elevator fairly easy, and then you can locate a good spot to sit down, maybe grab a bite to eat, which gets a lot harder later. The lines get crazy for food. Or maybe just want to grab a ship cocktail while you wait for the rooms to open up so you can drop off your carry-on luggage, freshen up if you want, and get ready for sail away. Our last cruise was the first time we had gotten on board ship in like the first 20-30 minutes or so of boarding. I found it so much less stressful than other times when the ships are already getting full and you're trying to figure out where to go, how to get there. Then when you do decide where to land for the next hour or so, you're hard-pressed to find a seat, or at least not a good one. I mean, I don't want to sit out in the sun and bake for a couple of hours. That's not me, not with, my luggage with me and carry-on luggage and stuff like that. I want to get in a nice place in the shade, maybe with a drink in my hand, and people watch for a while. The other very important thing you'll need to do on embarkation day is the muster drill. So don't forget that you have to do that. Most ships now have gone to the e-muster, and you can get through this task a lot easier and quicker than previously. Often you can watch the required video right on the cruise app while you wait to board the ship, so you can even have that done before you get on the ship. Now, if you're boarding a ship that gives you your ship card during check-in, I recommend going straight to your muster station, getting that over with before you do anything else. On our recent Carnival cruise, we had to wait until we could actually get our cards because they put them outside of your stateroom doors and they weren't there. We went and checked. They weren't there when we got on board the ship. We were just too early. So we had to wait until they were ready. And then once we got our cards, we could then go to the muster station where we still had to watch a demonstration, which I was a little bit surprised about. I didn't think we were going to have to do that. But there wasn't a demonstration video on the app to watch, and that may be why. However, they were doing these demonstrations every few minutes instead of making everyone show up and wait at the same time and everybody in your muster station go through it all at once, which does take forever. So it was still better than the original muster drills, but not really an e-muster. Once again, you might be able to avoid most of the stress of embarkation if you choose to board closer to final boarding time. By then, you can often sail through check-in, walk right on board the ship, and even get in your staterooms as they usually open a little bit prior to final boarding. However, that's not a guarantee. You could still have to wait in lines as it all depends on how many others are checking in at that same time. So if you have a lot of people deciding, hey, I'm just going to wait until the, closer to final boarding, then now you've got 30 minutes, an hour wait time, as much as you would have had before. So for me, I would rather just get the most bang for my buck and get on that ship as soon as possible. I want to enjoy every moment of the ship that I can. So are you one that prefers to get on board as soon as possible, or do you prefer to walk on later and avoid the lines? Let me know in the comments why you prefer one to the other. I think if I cruise more often, maybe I wouldn't feel the need to get on board as soon as humanly possible, but knowing me, I probably would still be doing everything possible to get on that ship ASAP. That's just my nature. Why not stick around and check out this video where we discuss more tips to help you prepare for your cruise, and then come back for more information designed to help you have an amazing cruise. Have a blessed week, everyone.